So, Nyimpini, thank you so much for making time to share your insights into the future of leadership. But before we walk into the future, can you tell us a little bit about your background? Where did you grow up?
I grew up in Mpumalanga province in a village called Role. It's part of the greater Bushbuck Ridge.
And what was your dream career when you grew up?
well, there you have to differentiate. My dad and mother wanted me to be a doctor, but I grew up in a business family. Since the age of 2, my family ran a retail business that has grown so much and is still around today. So I was inspired by that. And since growing up, I wanted to be a business person. I wanted to lead big corporates, not just entrepreneurial businesses. So I'm living a dream because I'm doing what I wanted to do. But my parents wanted me to do something else. To compensate for that, because I didn't become a doctor, I married one. Yeah. So I think they got happy.
Okay. That's a great compensation. And,
exactly.
And Nyimpini, tell us who inspired you in your early days?
You know what? I know it sounds like a cliche, but for me, it was my parents. Because I was born into a family of leadership. So my dad didn't only run his own business, but he was also involved in politics. He was a minister in the homeland system, and he was a community leader. And my mother was an educator, but she taught for 40 years. 30 of those 40 years, she was a school principal. So either way, I was surrounded by leadership and huge impact in the community. And I closely watched their work and I was inspired. So I was inspired to learn and be great in education, but I was also inspired to lead businesses and build profitable, sustainable businesses.
Now, Nyimpini, today you are the CEO of General Electric Africa. You're also the chairman of the SA American Chamber of Commerce, and you have a very impressive career history. You worked with some of the world's biggest brands. Looking back over your career, would you say there was a turning point or two where things could have gone different?
Oh yes, for sure, for sure. There's been a few. But I think one of the turning points for me was when I got an opportunity to run my own business to start with, which was back in 2006, the year that I got married. You would have seen in my profile, I actually set up a 5 Nando's franchise and a joint venture, and I ran them. And that was amazing for me because up until then, I was working for other people and being in corporate. So there's nothing that teaches you the discipline of money than spending your own money. And I'd cashed my pension. I was employing 98 people, and I had huge loans to pay. And just that reality of paying salaries, servicing my loan, sustaining the businesses, and it taught me a lot about general management and being a CEO and leadership. The second turning point was when I returned to corporate about 4 years later, because I returned into a role in the United Kingdom. So for the first time, I left South Africa and I joined Diageo, but in the UK, having to lead businesses outside of the comfort of my culture, my family, no friends, and starting a new life, so to speak. And that taught me a lot about the global marketplace, but also about being resilient. And I think those two experiences got me to believe that I could do a lot more than I had done in the past. And it made me very bullish and made me a much stronger achiever in business because it grew my confidence.
And tell us, Nyimpini, what is driving you today?
It's impact. I've worked for multinationals throughout my career, and I'm at a stage where I am reflecting and thinking the country has done so much to develop and grow me? Am I doing enough to impact the country? The country is under a lot of pressure right now in terms of our GDP. We need to revive and grow the economy. And the capacity to execute and grow is not there. And I'm asking myself a lot to say, government alone cannot do it. What can I, as an individual, as a family, do with the skills I have, with the resources I have to impact broader? That's what's driving me. And I think a lot about philanthropy. I think a lot about coaching young up and coming leaders. I think a lot about doing work that has got broader impact beyond the company that I work for.
Now, you're doing a lot of charity work. In fact, I believe you recently did a charity, right, to support your community back at Bushbuck Ridge.
No, absolutely. So we do have a family foundation called Saseka Foundation, and we've been doing a couple of projects over the years, you know, and the latest one indeed has been a cycling project where we raised 121,000 for the Bushbuck Ridge Cycling Club, and very, very excited about that and very humbled by the support that we got. It took a lot of planning and training and a lot of pain to ride 320 kilometers over 4 days, but it was for a good cause, and we're really, really proud that we've been able to buy 6 bicycles and a lot of kit for these kids, because we believe sports and cycling make a difference.
Okay, great. Now, looking into the future, Nyimpini, and I know it's a big question, but what does the future of leadership mean to you?
You know what, I do think, you know, there's like 4 words that comes to mind when we talk about future of leadership. I think one is agility. The second one is digital or technology. The third one for me is sustainability and think decarbonization. And the last one is diversity. So I think future leaders will work certainly in a lot more culturally, gender, background diverse environment than we did. Things are going to change much faster than they have in the past. So certainly being able to reinvent yourself and driving agility in the way that you do things is very important. And I think digital and technology is known. I mean, think about the impact of AI, driverless cars, just ecosystem. I think that means that we'll lead differently. We could even be leading people that we're not interacting with all the time in a physical space. And therefore, that is what the future holds, about being resilient, changing faster, and thinking about the future in terms of decarbonization, resilient on natural resources that have become so scarce.
Now, Nyimpini, what have you learned from your own leadership journey that you consider most important for building and empowering future leaders?
Ongoing learning. The principle of lean, which is something that we are very passionate about at GE, which talks to ongoing improvement, never-ending improvement, I think is the thing that can sustain leaders into the future, because if you don't learn and challenge yourself to get new skills, then you become irrelevant over time. So I think for me, number one, it's ongoing learning. The second thing, though, is innovation. You know, the fact that I've always anticipated change and innovated to take care of future demand even before it arrived has allowed me to really have solid hands in today, but one eye into the future to make sure that we can anticipate future needs. And I think those are the things that that curiosity and wanting to challenge oneself and reinvent myself has been very useful in my career, and I see that continue to be relevant. And I think the last one is about building a diverse set of skills, because business is becoming more and more integrated. The functional leadership where you specialize in one thing, I don't think it's going to work anymore. It's an ecosystem. So knowing how to form those partnerships becomes quite critical.
Now, Nyimpini, when you speak to aspiring leaders, what do you tell them about social media? How should they navigate social media to build their own leadership brand?
Look, social media can be very good in building one's brand, but I think it's important that you need to be authentic. We need authentic voices in social media, and that authenticity, just try to have something to offer and be true to yourself, because that's how you build brand. What is your unique proposition? Don't say things for the sake of, because it can even undermine you. And that strategy and add value. You know, there's a lot of noise in social media, and I think content and thought leadership and curation of the stories is very important. But I think there's a downside to it, and people need to be careful around, be careful about what you get involved yourself in, what you say, because whatever is in social media cannot be erased. And therefore, some of the things can be positive for you, but if you get it wrong, it can also be a derailer. So that would be my advice. Have an authentic voice, be consistent, and be strategic on how you use it.
Now, Nyimpini, we're living in challenging times, and you mentioned a couple of challenges that you went through in your own career. What is your advice for future leaders in terms of challenges? What are some of the biggest challenges they should expect to encounter in their career?
Look, I think some of them are not different to the challenges that we have encountered in the past, or leaders like myself. I think one of the things that's bound to happen is that you will get disappointed. You will fail at something. And I think dealing with failure and coming back from that is very important. And I see that becoming bigger into the future because there's so much that is unknown. And therefore, future leaders will be required to take more risks. But with risk comes disappointment, and how you reinvent yourself and bounce back becomes quite important into that. I think the other challenge is that I foresee that regulators, governments, NGOs, and consumers will get more involved and will have more voice, because there's social media now, there's laws coming in, there's uncertainty that requires a lot more regulation. Take data privacy, for example, and cyber crimes, and all of these kind of things. And therefore, regulatory environment will become even more sticky and challenging. And I think future leaders need to learn about partnerships, triple Ps, and how to work with regulators and governments. I think that will be quite a big challenge. And then lastly, I think you're likely to be disrupted in business somehow. You know, your plans are not going to go the way you're thinking. So I think future leaders need to learn how to disrupt themselves before they get it disrupted externally. But I think that will be challenging, because we talk about living in a volatile, complex, ambiguous world and so on. I think it's going to be more so, 10 times so, and how you learn to navigate through not even knowing who your competitors are. It's some of the things that future leaders need to prepare themselves for.
And Nyimpini, if you were to design a curriculum for future leaders, what are some of the new skills you would want to factor in?
Definitely, the future leaders need to be conversant on AI, for sure, artificial intelligence, because I mean, that is a technology that will be driving vehicles, that will be driving research, that will be driving predictive stuff, you know? So I think certainly learning a lot more and being tech savvy and open to that is important. With that, I think we need to know about risk, cybersecurity in particular. I would add that for sure. I would add something around dealing with regulators, especially because of issues, the challenges we're facing now on climate change. Many companies are already making declarations about net zero by 2050, 2060. Those time periods will be led not by myself, but future leaders, because 2050, 2060 will be too old. They need to learn and know how to deal with that. And I think last but not least is new distribution or route to market, or what you call go to market. Today, especially for consumer businesses, we've been going to market through physical stores, but e-commerce, which today probably contributes, if you're in the US, say 10% of all retail sales. In South Africa, it's only 2% of all retail sales. In future, it's going to be 50%, 60% of all retail sales. And you need to be conversant of new distribution channels, not just for physical goods, but for services as well. Insurance brokers, they may not have as big business because people will be buying insurance directly through the app. So I think for me, it's those are some of the things that I would definitely have in the curriculum. And then lastly, leading in diversity. The leadership of business has been very homogeneous in many ways, which has been people like you and I, male, and male from developed countries. We'll see more females coming in leadership, but we'll also see more people from developing markets who may not be native English speakers leading global businesses. So leading in cultural diversity, gender diversity, is something that we all need to be trained to do.
Absolutely. And Nyimpini, as a mentor to future leaders, can you maybe share a success story or two where you mentored an upcoming leader and that person took your advice to heart?
Oh yeah, for sure. I'm very proud actually that 2 weeks ago, my mentee, Alvin Bugwa, who used to be the chief financial officer at Uganda Breweries when I was CEO there, has just been appointed managing director for Diageo in the Americas and the Caribbean. Yeah. And we started the journey when he became the CFO back in 2014 for Uganda Breweries, where he expressed that he would love to be a CEO into the future. And we went through a mentorship program. And one of the things that he needed at that time, because he was on a very strong finance stream, was to go and do a commercial role. And fast forward to that, he actually took a step down away from the executive to go into another market to become a sales manager for a region. That gave him the necessary commercial skills. And he did so well in that he was promoted to go back and be CEO for Uganda Breweries. And then recently, he's got even a bigger global role as a CEO. And I think mentorship is about trust. It's also about vision, but also having honest conversations with a person.
Now, Nyimpini, in your leadership journey and maybe in your learning journey, who are the type of role models that you would recommend future leaders should study and learn from?
The one person that really fascinates me is a football coach called Pep Guardiola, who is currently the coach of Manchester City. I believe that leadership principles are very important, whether they come from an orchestra conductor, or it's a football coach, or it's a teacher or school principal. And it's really about influence and agility. Now, when I look at Pep Guardiola, I mean, he came from Spain, having played for Barcelona, and was very successful there. Many people were thinking that it is because of the system of Barcelona that he understood very well. He then went to Germany and with Bayern Munich, and he was very successful there. Completely different set of skilled players, complete culture and a different style of football. Then he went from Bayern and he went into English football with Manchester, where people were saying that it is the most competitive and difficult climate in football. And now he's been very successful. So I think that agility to be able to lead in different cultures and contexts and bring the best out of the team that you have, it inspires me a lot. And doing so at such a young age and not really being too talkative like other coaches, but really focusing on his profession and delivering. I really get inspired by him. And I don't even support the teams that he coaches, but I love the way that he approaches leadership.
Can you reveal which team you are supporting?
Orlando Pirates in South Africa, of course. I could not, up the bucks, I could not reveal that when I worked for Vodacom, because we sponsored both Pirates and Chiefs. And of course, I was in charge of sponsorship as well. So, but today I can reveal it's Orlando Pirates in South Africa, and in the EPL is Chelsea.
Okay, well,
in the Premier League, yeah.
Good luck for the season. I think it's going to be a tough season.
Yeah, it will be. This year is very, very competitive indeed. It's very competitive. I wasn't happy with Manchester getting Ronaldo, of course, Manchester United. So the competition is high, but hey, we're in there.
They're still losing, as we saw in the Champions League. So
Indeed, Nick. That was pleasing to see.
Yes. So tell us, Nyimpini, how can our listeners connect with you and where should they follow you?
LinkedIn is the best one for me. And when you go into LinkedIn, you just search Nyimpini Mabunda. I'm the only one. So there's no, so I come up and, or you search GEC or Southern Africa. I'm quite active in LinkedIn. I share a lot and I've got a very high engagement. So LinkedIn will be the preferred indeed.
Thank you. And last but not least, Nyimpini, what is your message for the millions of kids across Africa that are now thinking about their career, that are not quite sure where they should start and what the success principles are in this new economy?
Yeah, that's an important one. I think for me is to remember that we all have something to offer. We've got strengths. And don't try and live someone else's journey. You can learn from them, but you're unique with your own strengths. So I think for too long, we focused on things we don't have and what can I do with my weaknesses. But you are at your best when you leverage your strength. So that's number one. You've got what it takes. The second thing is that, you know, you're better than you think and you know, because there's so much capacity in us than it shows, and we just need to nurture it and train it and learn and ask questions, approach others, because we've got people in our network that we know that can help us. So use the resources that you have around you to learn and improve yourself. Curiosity is very, very important. And then last but not least, because I hear people saying that, you know, I don't have money, I don't have this and that. There's a lot of stuff that's available these days on the digital space, and even zero rated, just through your phone. And I know companies like Google and Microsoft have got a lot of free content. So there's a lot of self-learning and teaching that people can do, even if they just go to internet cafes and whatever. Information is there. You just need to have a positive attitude towards learning and growing, and just try out things, take risks, and keep trying, and be comfortable with the fact that some of the things you do aren't going to work, but take the learning from that and keep going.
Thank you. So as we say at Orlando Pirates, never give up.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Nyimpini, for sharing your insights and your wisdom into the future of leadership, and reminding us that influence and agility and tapping into your own capability, your own strength, and leveraging all the assets you have available online are really key today.
Absolutely. I wish it was there in my generation. Thank you so much, Nick.